What if the real threat in the room isn't the one raising their voice, throwing around big words, or trying to prove something? What if the real threat is the one just sitting there, calm, quiet, watching everything? You see, we've all been told to speak up, stand out, make noise. But here's the truth no one talks about. The ones who last, the ones who win without fighting, are the ones who know when to say nothing at all. Because silence, when used right, is louder than any speech. Think about it. The people always trying to prove their strength, they're often the ones most unsure of it. But the ones who don't need to prove anything, who keep their cards close and their emotions even closer, they're dangerous in a completely different way. That's where real power begins. Not with shouting, with restraint, with control, with patience. While most people are rushing to react, the smart ones are already thinking 3 steps ahead. If you've ever felt underestimated, passed over, or like you're always reacting instead of leading, it's probably not because you're weak. It's because you're playing the wrong game. Today, we're going to flip that. We're going to show you how to move differently, think differently, and become the kind of person people don't want to challenge, because they can't read you, can't predict you, and most importantly, they can't stop you. We're not here to teach you how to be loud. We're here to show you how to be effective. So stay with us. We've got 5 real rules for power. Not the kind that fades, but the kind that makes you untouchable. If you get value from this, go ahead and like the video. Drop a comment, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and subscribe so you don't miss what's next. Let's get into it. Most people talk too much. They feel the need to fill every silence, to prove they know things, to be heard. But the real power doesn't sit in the noise. It sits in the silence, in the observation, in the quiet moments where everyone else is too busy reacting. That's where the smart ones live. That's where you win before anything even begins. You've probably seen it yourself. Maybe in a meeting, maybe in a group chat. The loudest voice usually grabs attention, but rarely respect. The one talking non-stop often ends up exposing what they shouldn't. Meanwhile, someone else just watches, says little, waits. And when they speak, people listen. Not because of volume, but because of presence. Power isn't about dominating the room. It's about owning the moment. And you do that by knowing more than you say, and saying only what you must. Emotional control plays a huge role here. Most of us are trained to react. Someone says something rude, we snap. Someone tries to one-up us, we compete. But what if we stopped reacting? What if we trained ourselves to stay calm and let the others reveal themselves instead? That's where your edge starts to show. We remember a situation in a corporate setting. 2 department heads were fighting over a new project. Both tried to out-talk each other in front of the CEO. Stats, stories, strong opinions. They were loud, emotional, almost desperate to be picked. But there was one guy who just sat there. He didn't interrupt. He didn't try to look smarter. He listened, took notes, and at the end, he made a simple comment. Not flashy, not aggressive. Just a short insight based on something both others had missed. The CEO nodded once and said, "I want him on this." No show, just precision. That's the effect of being calm and calculated when everyone else is in a rush to speak. Silence makes people uncomfortable because it leaves space. And in that space, the other person starts to reveal more. They keep talking. They give away their position, their fears, their limits. You just have to pay attention. That's the thing no one tells you. When you speak less, you see more. And when you see more, you control more. Not in a loud way. In a quiet, solid, unshakable way. We're not saying don't speak. We're saying speak last. Let them go first. Let them show what they're thinking. Let them feel like they're in charge. Because while they're trying to impress, you're gathering information. Every word they say is a puzzle piece. And by the time they're done talking, you already know what matters. You already have the full picture. Another moment that hit us hard was during a deal negotiation. 2 reps were in the room. One came in with a strong pitch, energy through the roof. The second one barely said a word. He sat there, listened, nodded, occasionally asked a question, but never showed any urgency. At the end, the first guy looked exhausted. He had given everything up front. The second guy, still cool, still unreadable. When the time came to decide, the client said, "We feel more confident with you." Why? Not because of fancy words, but because he never let himself be read. He didn't beg. He didn't over-explain. He created space for the client to think, and in that space, trust grew. If you're always reacting, you're always behind. People who can't stay quiet are easy to read. They reveal how they feel too soon. They let their emotions do the talking. And once you give that away, you give others the power to control you. That's why calm isn't weakness. It's control. Being able to sit in a room, listen without reacting, think without showing your thoughts. That's power most people don't understand. And those who do, they win long before the other side knows they're playing. So ask yourself, next time you're in a conversation, a conflict, a room full of opinions, do you need to speak? Or can you just watch? Can you read what's happening without joining the noise? Because that's what separates those who move with intention from those who move out of habit. We're giving you this first rule because it sets the foundation. Everything that comes next depends on how well you can observe without jumping in. And if you get this right, you don't just become hard to read, you become impossible to predict. And if they can't read you, they can't predict you. And if they can't predict you, they can't stop you. If this speaks to you so far, don't forget, hit the like button, leave a comment with your thoughts, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe. We've got more coming, and it only gets sharper from here. Perception wins way more battles than truth ever will. That's the game most people don't even know they're playing. You could be right, you could be smart, you could even be more capable. But if you don't look like it, people will treat you like you're not. In the real world, it's not about being the strongest, it's about seeming untouchable. If you can look calm when everyone else is losing it, you've already won half the fight. Let's be real. Most of the time, people judge what they see before they understand who you are. It's not fair, but it's real. That's why you've got to be sharp about what you show and how you show it. We're not talking about faking things or pretending to be someone else. We're talking about sending the right signals. You don't have to speak first. You don't have to be flashy. You just need to come across as the one who's grounded, the one who doesn't flinch, the one who, no matter what's going on, looks like they're in control. We once worked with this guy in a fast-paced agency, the kind of place where people brag, cut each other off in meetings, always racing to prove they're the smartest in the room. But there was one guy, a developer, who barely spoke. He just did his job, stayed cool, never got defensive, never looked rushed. When a client was angry or a deadline hit the fan, guess who the boss always called first? Him. Not because he was the loudest, because he looked like he had it handled. Even when everything was on fire, he controlled the vibe. And that calm presence made him look like the only adult in the room. That's what we mean when we say control the optics. You shape how people feel around you. That's a kind of power you don't need to announce. It shows all by itself. When you're calm, people assume you know what you're doing. When you don't overreact, they assume you've seen worse. And when you don't try to force your opinion, they lean in to hear it when you finally speak. We've seen people who had zero real control still walk into a room and be treated like leaders just because of how they carried themselves. No shouting, no trying to impress, just quiet confidence. They looked the part before they ever had the title. And in time, the role caught up to the image. Now, Let's talk about how this plays out today. Your image doesn't just live in the room with you. It lives online too. The way you move on social media, the way you write emails, the way you speak in public. It all sends a message. People build a version of you in their heads, and that version decides how they treat you. If you look sloppy, rushed, or desperate, they treat you that way. But if you seem measured, calm, focused, they hesitate before stepping wrong with you. That hesitation, that's space. And in that space, you operate with an advantage. This is why you have to be intentional, not performative, intentional. You don't need to show off, but you can't be careless either. You have to ask yourself, what story is being told when I walk into a room, when I post, when I respond? If that story doesn't match the kind of power you want to hold, you have to rewrite it. Not with words, but with presence. Let's be honest, people often won't take the time to understand you. They'll just go with what they see. So make sure what they see works for you, not against you. You could be brilliant, but if you look anxious all the time, you'll be ignored in favor of someone who looks like they have it together, even if they don't. That's the hard truth. But once you get it, you stop fighting for attention and start shaping it. And remember, this isn't about being fake, it's about clarity. You're deciding how you want to show up. You're taking control of your story before someone else tells it for you. Because once you let others define your image, you're playing on their terms. So from here on, think sharp. Watch your posture, your tone, your silence, your timing. Let your energy say what your words don't have to. The people who stay composed in chaos, they become the steady hand everyone trusts. And trust leads to influence. If this makes sense to you, if you're starting to see how image leads to power, then like the video, drop your thoughts in the comments, and share it with someone who needs to hear this today. And don't forget to subscribe. This is only getting deeper. The way they see you decides how they treat you. Control that, and you control everything. Power isn't always about what you say or do. Sometimes it's about what you don't do. Most people get dragged into battles they didn't plan, conversations they didn't control, and situations where they're reacting instead of leading. That's not power, that's chaos. When you react, you play on someone else's terms. But when you shape the space around you, when you adjust the setting, the timing, the pace, everything starts moving to your rhythm. That's what we're talking about here. You don't fight in the storm, you wait it out. Let the other person waste their energy. Let them move in circles. And then, when the dust settles, you show up calm, prepared, and ready to strike on your terms. We've seen this play out more times than we can count. There was this negotiation where two companies were trying to close a deal. One side wanted to rush, pushing calls, asking for updates every day, trying to get a signature before the end of the quarter. The other side, they moved differently. No panic, no pressure. They delayed the first meeting by a week, then the next one by a few days. Not because they weren't ready. They were just letting the other side get tired, desperate even. By the third meeting, the rushed side had dropped some of their conditions, offered more flexibility, just to keep things moving. In the end, the patient side walked away with everything they wanted, not because they were louder or more aggressive. They just knew how to stretch time and let the environment do the work. This is the kind of move that doesn't look flashy. You're not making big speeches. You're not dominating the room. You're doing something way more dangerous. You're shifting the frame. When people try to push you into quick decisions or trap you into giving a reaction, pause. Don't answer too fast. Change the angle. Maybe you push the meeting. Maybe you change the location. Maybe you turn the conversation to something they didn't prepare for. And while they're adjusting, you stay centered. That space you create, that pause, that's where they start slipping. Most people can't sit in uncertainty. They rush, they guess, they expose themselves. All you have to do is stay still long enough for them to make the wrong move. There's this story about an entrepreneur who was being bullied into accepting an offer by a group of investors. The tone was aggressive. Deadlines were tight, and everyone thought she would fold. Instead, she pulled back, postponed the final call, canceled one meeting with no explanation. And during that time, she didn't argue, didn't justify, didn't even explain her silence. She just waited. Meanwhile, the investors started to feel it. What if she walked away? What if someone else picked her up first? By the time they got her back on a call, their tone had shifted. They were now open to her conditions, not because she debated better, but because she controlled the timing, the silence, the pressure. That's how the quiet player took the lead without raising her voice once. And this isn't just about big business. This works in everyday situations too. Let's say you're dealing with someone who's pushing your buttons. A coworker, a client, even a friend. Don't match their energy. Don't rush to defend yourself. Shift the timing. Take a pause before replying. Reschedule the meeting. Let them cool down while you stay neutral. That reset changes everything. You stop reacting and you start deciding how things move. That's control. You've probably noticed that people hate feeling like they're not in control. That's exactly why this works. When you stop playing into their pace and start setting your own, they get uncomfortable. And in that discomfort, they lose clarity. That's when mistakes happen. That's when power shifts, not with force, but with patience. Now here's the truth. Most people won't see this as power at first, because there's no noise. But when the result shows up, when you're the one who got what you wanted, without forcing anything, they'll remember. You didn't dominate the room. You didn't fight for control. You simply built the stage so that you couldn't lose, no matter who stepped onto it. So the next time you feel pressure to react, fast pause, look at the setting, look at the pace, and ask yourself, are you playing on their terms? Or are they moving inside your frame? Because the one who changes the rules owns the game. If this hits home, show some support. Like the video, drop a comment, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and hit that subscribe button. We've still got more to give, and trust us, it only gets sharper from here. Sometimes, the smartest move you can make is to step back and let people believe you're not a threat. Let them think you're harmless, not ready, maybe even a little clueless. Don't correct them. Don't rush to prove anything. Because while they're relaxing, while they're talking freely, while they're underestimating you, you're getting everything you need. That's not weakness, that's misdirection, and it's way more powerful than going head-on. See, the loud, aggressive ones? They draw too much attention. Everyone's watching their every move. But the one who slips under the radar, that's the one who surprises everyone when it counts. We've seen this happen in real life. There was this intern in a growing startup. Super quiet, didn't say much during meetings, always stayed in the background. People barely noticed him. Some even joked about how green he was. But what they didn't know, he was the founder's son. He was just there to watch, to learn, to see who people really were when they thought no one important was paying attention. Months later, he stepped into a leadership role, and the same people who ignored him were now answering to him. Not because he forced it, but because he played the long game. He gathered everything in silence, and when the moment came, he moved fast and clean. That's the energy we're talking about. You don't need to win every little battle. You don't need to show off every skill you've got. In fact, the more they don't see coming, the more shocked they are when you strike. Play soft. Let them get confident. Let them think they've got you figured out. People drop their guard when they don't feel threatened. That's when they say too much. That's when they stop protecting their moves, and that's when you're already 3 steps ahead. There's this phrase we like, a limp can be the deadliest disguise. If they think you're not ready, if they think you're out of the game, they stop watching you. And when no one's watching, you're free to set the trap exactly how you want. You move in silence, you study the board, and when the time is right, you make your move. Not with noise, with precision. That's how real power works. Not by being obvious, but by staying unreadable until it's too late. And it's not about being fake. It's about using strategy. If someone's already expecting you to be strong, they prepare for you. But if they don't see you coming, they leave themselves wide open. That's why the quiet one often hits the hardest. The strike isn't louder, it's just better timed. Most people burn out trying to prove something every day. But when you stop playing that game, when you stop chasing recognition and start using patience, you gain control. And when you finally show your full hand, it's already checkmate. There's also a real shift that happens when you stop reacting. When people insult you or look down on you, don't rush to prove them wrong. Let them talk. Let them get comfortable thinking you're small. Because while they're laughing, you're calculating. While they're pushing forward, you're setting the board behind the scenes. By the time they realize what's really going on, the move's already been made. This is the power of staying underestimated. It's not weakness, it's set up. You control the story they build about you, and when you decide to rewrite it, it hits them like a wave. That quiet person they never respected, suddenly the one with all the leverage, that player they thought was out, now calling the shots. That's why we say, let them think you're losing. Let them think you're not capable. Just make sure you're the one who knows exactly what's happening. That knowledge, that quiet edge, that's the real win. If you've ever felt ignored, overlooked, not taken seriously, don't fight to change their minds. Just wait. Work in silence. Watch the room. Learn the system. And when you do move, make it so clean they can't recover. That's not revenge. That's power. And if what we're saying hits you right now, do us a favor. Like the video, drop a comment. Tell us where you're applying this rule in your life. Share it with someone who's tired of always having to prove themselves. And don't forget to subscribe. We're not done. The next rule hits even harder. The longer they think you're harmless, the less they're ready when you move. There comes a point where silence, patience, and strategy have done their work. The moment to act shows up, not loud, not dramatic, but clear. And when it does, you don't hesitate, you don't explain, you end it. That's the last rule. Not half measures, not warnings, not waiting for someone to fix themselves. You finish the move with precision and zero emotion, not out of anger, but out of clarity. Because one of the biggest mistakes we make is thinking closure means giving people more chances. It doesn't. Closure means locking the door behind you and not looking back. In real power moves, you don't argue. You don't try to win a second time. You make the decision once and stand on it. Because every time you go back to a situation you should have walked away from, it costs you more. More peace, more time, more energy. That's the price of leaving. Loose ends. And people sense it. When you're unsure, when you're still negotiating with the past. It shows in how you talk, how you move, how you think. That hesitation makes you vulnerable. That's why the strongest move isn't noise, it's finality. We've seen people drag the same toxic coworker along for years, always saying, let's give them another shot or they'll change. But nothing changes. Same lies, same chaos, same weight on the team. And when the damage is done, the same people who held on too long say, I should have ended this months ago. That moment of clarity always shows up late. Because mercy feels right in the moment. But regret always follows when you've let someone take too much from you. And by the time you realize it, you've already paid for it in stress, trust, and wasted time. There was a story we heard about a small business owner. She had a friend working under her, talented but toxic. Constant disrespect, missed deadlines, always creating tension. She didn't want to be that boss, so she gave chance after chance, wrote it off as personality, tried to talk things out. Nothing changed. It only got worse. Until one day a big client walked away citing internal disorganization. That was the final wake-up call. She didn't yell. She didn't explain. She just called a meeting and said, "It ends here." And from that day forward, her business grew faster. Her team worked better. The peace returned, not because she fought, but because she cut the tie. Fully. Cleanly. This is the energy we're talking about. You don't owe an exit speech. You don't owe one last discussion. When someone's shown you their patterns, when a deal keeps draining you, when a relationship costs more than it brings, you act with calm, with purpose, with no open doors. Because if you leave space even a little, they'll find a way back in, and the cycle starts again. A lot of people confuse kindness with keeping connections alive. But sometimes, the kindest thing you can do for yourself is to walk away. Completely. No access. No explanations. Just space. Space where you can breathe again, focus again, build again. That's not cold. That's power. And people respect it more than they admit. The truth is, the moment you decide to finish something, really finish it, you'll feel it in your body. The weight lifts, the noise stops, and that's when you know it was the right move. Because peace is loud in its own way. And when you've been in survival mode too long, peace feels unfamiliar. But that doesn't mean it's wrong. It means you've finally taken control. So when it's time, don't flinch. Don't check in to see how they're feeling. Don't leave the door cracked open. End it. Because real endings don't echo. They just disappear. And that sends a message, not to punish, but to protect. You protect your time, your energy, your focus. You send the signal that you're not someone who plays with fire twice. You get burned once and you don't come back. If you've been dealing with a situation where you know deep down, it's time to move, listen to that voice, trust it, and move with quiet confidence. No need for drama, just action. And if this rule hit you where it needed to, don't forget, like the video, leave a comment, and share this with someone stuck in something that needs to end. And of course, subscribe. Because we're not here to talk about surface level stuff. We're here to build the kind of strength that actually protects you. You don't win by hurting them. You win by making sure they never get the chance to hurt you again. There's a moment when waiting, observing, and holding back is no longer the smart move. It's just delay. That moment is when it's time to act. And when it comes, you don't talk. You don't warn. You don't leave the door half open, hoping maybe this time things will be different. You finish it. Fully, quietly, cleanly, one move. No need to go back. We've all seen what happens when people drag things out. They know a situation is bad, but they keep tolerating it. Maybe it's a colleague who keeps crossing the line. Maybe it's a business partner who adds stress, not value. Or maybe it's someone in your personal life who's been draining you for months. You tell yourself it'll get better. You think maybe one more conversation will fix it. But here's the truth. The longer you leave it, the more it eats into your time, your energy, and your peace of mind. Mercy feels good in the moment. But later, regret hits harder. We remember this one guy in a small creative agency, talented team, strong vision. But there was one person, constantly late, always negative, kept causing friction. Still, they kept him around because he's been here since the beginning. They thought loyalty meant patience. One day, a major client walked away because of a mistake he made. No warning. Just gone. And just like that, months of slow damage turned into something they couldn't recover from. They didn't lose that client on the day he made the mistake. They lost them months earlier when they didn't act. That moment stayed with us. When a pattern keeps repeating, the outcome won't change unless you do. And that change doesn't come from long speeches. It comes from decisions, strong, final ones. You don't block a toxic person for revenge. You block them to protect your clarity. You don't exit a deal to get even. You exit it to keep your standards. And when you do, don't explain. Don't try to ease their fall. Just act and move on. Some people will call it cold. Let them. Because the truth is, being too nice is how many of us end up in cycles we should have ended long ago. You can be kind, but don't be available to what keeps costing you. Whether it's time, money, your peace, or your focus, once you've seen the damage, you act. One clear cut is always better than a slow burn. It's also not just about the person or the situation. It's about you. Every time you say yes to what drags you down, you're saying no to your progress, the opportunity you miss, the energy you waste, the peace you don't feel. All of that matters more than trying to keep someone comfortable who's already shown you they don't care about your limits. Another example we've seen, someone working at a company that looked great on the outside. Good pay, big name. But the environment was toxic. The pressure, the politics, the fake smiles. She kept holding on because it's a good opportunity, and it'll look good on my resume. But she was exhausted, miserable, and losing her sense of direction. Until one day she shut her laptop, packed up, and left. No speech, no fight, no explaining. And you know what? 2 months later she had a better offer, more aligned, healthier, happier. That bold, silent move changed everything. She stopped hoping for change and became the one who changed it. That's the mindset we want you to carry moving forward. You don't need to yell. You don't need to prove your pain. You just need to make your next move final. If something or someone is holding you back, cut ties with no second thoughts. That doesn't make you heartless. It makes you focused. It shows you've learned. And if they didn't value what you brought, then they don't deserve the right to keep taking. Now's the time to ask yourself, what in your life have you been tolerating too long? Who have you been explaining yourself to when you don't owe them a single word anymore? What unfinished business is still draining your energy? Whatever it is, close it. Don't wait for the perfect moment. The perfect moment is the one where you finally choose peace over pressure. And once you make that choice, don't look back. And if this part of the video hits something real for you, don't just scroll. Like the video, drop your thoughts in the comments, share it with someone who's been carrying a situation they need to let go of. And make sure you subscribe, because this kind of mindset shift doesn't stop here. You don't win by hurting them. You win by making sure they never get the chance to hurt you again.